Hi, today we're going to talk about the RCSB Protein Databank. Protein Databank is a really good way for teachers and students alike to visualize proteins in 3 dimensions and learn more about learn more about proteins in general. So I think it's going to be an extremely important educational tool moving forward, and I'm really excited to get started talking to you about it. So, what is the Protein Databank? It's a database designed by the Research Collaboratory for Structural Bioinformatics. These researchers who study proteins all around the world are studying and modeling proteins essentially. And what the Protein Databank does is it compiles these models of protein structures from all over the world and makes them publicly accessible. So that's part of PDB's mission statement and purpose is that they want to make proteins more accessible content for teachers and students. So let's use the Protein Databank. So here is the homepage for the Protein Databank, as you can see. They've got a molecule of the month here, which is kind of cool. They talk about structural views of biology, and it gives a little bit of a breakdown of what they have in store for us at this, in this, on this website. And then there are a few more. There are some, tabs that are for depositing proteins, searching for proteins, visualizing, things like that. So let's go ahead, start off and search. So let's search for the gene that we used in class. So we used SLC6A1. So essentially, if you just straight up search SLC6A1, it doesn't actually have your it doesn't have any matches. It doesn't actually have any models for our particular protein. But what it will do for you is it will give you matches with similar spelling. So if you mess up your spelling, you might be in luck, and they've got tons of proteins here. So let's go back and search SLC6A1 one more time, and let's click Homo sapiens. So you can see here they've got a little bit of a breakdown of what our protein does, um, what it's actually called, and then it's going to give you like a compilation of different proteins or different information of the protein from places like Uniprot, Calc, Exon, things like that. So even though it doesn't have a good model of our protein, it does still have some interesting information about our stuff. But let's go back and let's look up something like lactase. It's a protein that we know pretty much for sure there's going to be something on. So let's click on this E. coli lactase beta galactosidase. So here's the main page for it. As you can see, it's got the name on it. It's got different classifications, organisms that it's expressed in, um, and gives a little bit more information. And then also it shows the literature that is published based on it. But what we really want to look at here is the 3D view of it. So let's go ahead and click on structure here with 3D view. And now it's pulled up a 3D image of the particular protein in question. Um, and there's lots you can do with this. It's a really cool visual, but you can actually use this to kind of analyze different aspects of the protein. So for example, you can come down here and you can change the different style of the protein depending on what you want to do. I'm a really big fan of licorice. So you can see each of the amino acids in here actually have defined structures that they show. And I think that can be really helpful in checking, seeing how well the amino acids are. You can also change it to things like surface. So if you zoom out, you can see the surface of the protein in 3 dimensions, which I think that's really great visual as well. You can even see ions that are embedded within the proteins. Um, Similarly, you can use space fill, so that just gives it more better 3 dimensional, gives it a little bit more volume, but while still retaining its actual, kind of some atomic integrity, if so to speak. Let's go back to cartoon. So cartoon also they have it can show you different the foldings of the proteins and stuff like that in really good detail. So what you can also do is change the color. So you can change the color by element, so you can see all the elements now. They have different colors based on this. So like this is going to be sulfur. This is carbon. Um, and the so that'll help you if you're trying to find which, what kind of ions that you have in here. You can also do things like by residue, molecule type. Um, let's see, hydrophobicity is a really cool one. Um, things like that. I like by chain especially because that gives you a really interesting idea of how the amino acid chains are interrelated. So then further, you can also change, the dimensions of the ligands as well, so you can turn those into space fill. And I think that really helps give you, it makes them easier to see, easier to stand out, and I think it's a little bit better structurally. So you can also, as a presentation tool, you can make it spin, rotate slowly, gives you an idea of a really good three-dimensional functions of this. You can also center it, full screen, and then um, that allows you to take a screenshot. You can also download the files and play around with the model, and that's extremely important if you're actually trying to find something out about the model or edit it to make a change to the gene, see how it'll affect things, stuff like that. So definitely keep that in mind. And then finally, you can change the background. One really nice thing I find is you can also focus. So let's say we're trying to take a look at this particular ion right here. So we can take this focus knob and it'll kind of take out all the extraneous parts and it'll allow us to zoom in directly on this particular atom. And that can be really helpful if you're actually just trying to analyze if you're trying to analyze one specific part of the protein, but it's kind of a whole mess in there. Um, so moving on from that, obviously this section of the RCSB protein data bank is extremely interesting and important. But we also have what's called PDB 101. So PDB 101 is a lot more of the educational side of Protein Data Bank. It's really interesting, and there's lots of different cool learning modules in it that will help if you have students or if you're struggling yourself to learn about proteins, or you're just really enthusiastic and interested in learning about proteins. So again, this is the part where it goes further in depth with the molecule of the month. You've got you can change stuff with it, stuff like that. So you can click on the molecule of the month and check it by category. There's tons of molecules. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. So they've got health and disease, molecules of life, biotech and nanotech, structures and structure determination, and then they have all these little subcategories. So if you're interested in the immune system or diabetes or cancer, you can check out all of these and see what and find some really interesting molecules and different models of these molecules that you may never have heard of before. So that's again, this is the browse section as well, so you can look at a lot of different topics in the browse section. I would definitely recommend checking out some of these. My personal favorite is I think that one of the most interesting is the HIV and AIDS section, um, or like things like toxins and poisons, stuff like that. Definitely worth checking out. So then we have the learn section where you have things like paper models. So if you have students that are struggling to visualize proteins in 3 dimensions, they can actually make like origami, essentially make some paper models of proteins. Resources for flyers and posters, videos, interactive animations. They're coloring books. Check out these coloring books. These are awesome. So you can take these coloring book. These are just open source. You can pull up a PDF of the coloring book or of the coloring book page, and you can color in something like clathrin or collagen, antibodies, DNA, stuff like that. So that makes it a really cool learning resource. Then further again, you've got Education Corner, understanding PDB data. So that's really important if you're using the Protein Data Bank. If you're struggling to understand what you're looking at, this guide to understanding PDB data is extremely important. Then structural biology highlights, and then PDB and data archiving curriculum. Then you also have global health, so you can learn about diabetes mellitus. There's other teaching resources here, so you have curriculum models, biomolecular structures and models, diabetes at a molecular level, molecular immunology, and a molecular view of HIV/AIDS. Then you have some really cool scientific art from uh, Irving Geis and David Goodsell. So you can check out their art of proteins and things like that. They have some really cool stuff there. And then they have events like the Science Olympiad, poster prizes, Art of Science for kids. So this protein data bank is an extremely important education tool moving forward, especially as our understanding of proteins becomes more and more complex. Um, so let's finish this out. The applications of the protein data bank are for teaching, especially. They allow better visualization of protein molecules. You can inspect individual molecules and atoms, and you can analyze protein shape and structure. Further, with research, you can maneuver and rotate the molecules, take screenshots, and download and edit entire models. So it's extremely important for both aspects there. And finally, we have the PDB 101, which I just talked about. So definitely make sure y'all check this out. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you enjoyed Protein Data Bank.